So, everyone is talking about AI, the next model, the next benchmark, the next company that is either going to save us or end civilization, depending on which newsletter you read. And look, I get it, it is genuinely exciting. But I have been sitting with this question for a while now, and I think it's worth saying out loud. What if we are watching the wrong race? Because when people say winning AI, what they actually mean is who has the smartest model, who is pushing the frontier furthest, fastest. And that's the real thing worth tracking. I'm not dismissing it, but intelligence, even artificial intelligence, doesn't exist in the cloud by itself. It runs on chips. Those chips needs minerals. The minerals needs to be mined, processed, shipped, assembled. And all of that need to happen at scale, reliably, repeatedly. So if the physical foundations under all of this are fragile, and in some areas they are, then winning the model race while losing the supply chain race is a bit like having a best recipe in the world and no kitchen to cook it in. Here is the thing about frontier AI as a concept. It's very easy to sell, it's visual, it's fast moving. You can make dramatic video about it, investors understand the pitch, politicians can repeat it in speeches without needing to understand it deeply. And that's not a criticism, that's just how attention works. But the result is that physical infrastructure underpinning all of this technology gets almost no coverage. No one is making dramatic reels about rare earth processing capacity, and that's a problem. Because rare earths, specialty metals, precision manufacturing equipment, these are not secondary details, they are the actual table on which the chess game is being played. AI models depends on data centers depends on advanced chips depends on extremely precise manufacturing. That manufacturing depends on specific machines, some of which are only made by a handful of companies in the world. And those machines depends on materials that are mined in a small number of places, often processed in fewer. That's not a supply chain, that's a dependency chain. And when you map that out, the who is winning the AI question start to look at a lot more complicated than a benchmark score. I find it useful to think about technology in layers, not as a hierarchy of importance, but as a hierarchy of visibility. At the top, what I call stack technologies, AI models, cloud infrastructure, advanced semiconductors. This is what gets covered. This is what gets funded. And yes, this is genuinely where the US and its partners have significant strength. Below that, precision technologies, jet engines, advanced manufacturing equipment, the industries that move slowly by design. Because their entire value proposition is reliability. You can iterate fast when a failure means catastrophic consequences. These sectors run on trust, certification, decades of institutional knowledge. Then, production technologies, machine tools, industrial systems, the actual ability to manufacture things at scale. This is where speed and iteration start to matter in a different way. Ecosystems that can build quickly, test quickly, and adjust quickly tend to compound advantages here. And at the base, the foundation stuff, minerals, batteries, the raw input that everything else depends on. Now, here is the point I want to make clearly. Strength at the top doesn't guarantee strength at the bottom. You can have world-class AI labs and still be dependent on a small number of countries for the materials that power the hardware those labs run on. That's not a hypothetical, that's the current situation in several critical mineral categories. Focusing only on the top layer is like evaluating a building by admiring the architecture, by ignoring whether the foundation has cracks. Technology and geopolitics have always been linked, but the nature of that link has shifted. For a long time, the dominant frame was simple. Whoever has the best technology has the most power, and that's still broadly true. But what's becoming clear in the last few years is a more specific version of that. Whoever controls the choke points in technology supply chains has leverage, often quietly, often asymmetrically. Rare earth processing is the cleanest example. Most people couldn't name a rare earth element, but they were embedded in defense systems, EV motors, wind turbines, high-end electronics. And yes, the hardware underpinning AI infrastructure. When access to those materials gets complicated, through export restrictions, political disputes, supply shocks, whatever the cause, it doesn't matter how good your model is. The hardware it runs on becomes harder to build. That's leverage. And the countries that understand this are investing in the full stack, not just the glamorous bits. The other dimension worth noticing, no country is fully self-sufficient in this landscape, nor should it necessarily try to be. Alliances matter enormously here. One partner mines, another refines, another designs and fabricates. The network itself is a form of power, provided you are shaping how that network functions, not just participating in it. That's a different kind of strategic thinking than the headline AI race narrative encourages. So, what do you actually do with this? The answer isn't to slow down on frontier AI. That would be both impractical and counterproductive. The frontier matters. But the answer is also not to treat frontier leadership as sufficient. What it actually requires is something you might call technological dexterity. The ability to operate effectively across all four layers simultaneously, not just to be strong at the top, but to have deliberate strategy at every level: base materials, production capacity, precision industries, and the frontier. There is a specific gap that keeps coming back in this context, what some researchers call the missing middle. Labs produces breakthroughs, startup commercializes them, but the step in between, scaling from the proof of concept to industrial production, often stalls. The talent isn't there, the infrastructure isn't there, the financing isn't there in the right form. That gap isn't just an economic inefficiency. In critical technology sectors, it's a strategic vulnerability. Closing it requires sustained, sometimes unglamorous investment. In workforce training, in manufacturing infrastructure, in industrial policy that doesn't just subsidize research, but actively builds the bridge to production. That's harder to campaign on than we build the smartest AI. But it's what actually determines whether strategic advantages hold over time. The AI race framing is seductive. Because it's simple. There is a frontier, you either lead it or you don't. But the actual competition is considerably more layered than that. The countries and ecosystems that will hold durable technological power over the next several decades aren't just going to be the ones with the best models. They are going to be the ones who understand that technology is a system, physical as much as digital, and who built accordingly. There are real advantages already in place: strong innovation culture, deep talent pipelines, established alliances, genuine leadership at the frontier. Those are not nothing, those are significant. But the advantages at the top of the stack are only durable if the layers beneath them are also secure. So maybe the question worth sitting with isn't who is winning AI, it's who is building the complete system. Because that's a race that actually determines the outcome.